All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the
Three
Pillars.
of
Man,
man.
there we are. I'm Alex James. This is my brother.
Addison Corbin.
And today we're going to talk about, and the title of the episode is called The Bigger Fish, Chasing Excellence Without Losing Yourself. And the thought behind this episode title is like, one of the most humbling realizations a man can have is understanding that no matter how skilled, disciplined, intelligent, or successful he becomes, there's always someone bigger, someone stronger, smarter, faster, more accomplished, more talented, more experienced. And depending on your mindset, that realization can either discourage you or refine you. Because a lot of men secretly believe that once they reach a certain level, they finally feel secure. But life doesn't work that way. The higher you climb, the more you realize there's another level, another standard, another man pushing harder than you. And if your identity is built entirely on being the best, eventually your ego will collapse under comparison. That's where humility matters. Not weak humility, not self-deprecation, but grounded humility. The kind that says, I can acknowledge greatness in others without losing belief in myself. The danger is that many men respond to competition in unhealthy ways. Some become bitter, some become arrogant, some compromise their morals to win, some tie their self-worth entirely to status, money, physique, or recognition. And eventually, ambition turns into ego. The pursuit of excellence becomes corrupted by comparison. But true growth requires balance because the goal isn't just becoming the bigger fish, the goal is becoming stronger, wiser, more disciplined, and more capable without losing your integrity, your peace, or your character in the process. A man should absolutely strive for greatness, but he should also be mature enough to understand there will always be another level, another challenge, another person ahead of him in some area of life. And instead of letting that create insecurity, it should create perspective because competition can sharpen a man or consume him. So the real question becomes, how do you pursue greatness without becoming prideful, bitter, or lost in comparison? And how does this apply to the mind, body, and spirit?
This is good.
Thoughts on that, my brother?
Again, there's a lot to break down.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but to go along with that, I genuinely think that it's about the mindset that you put on the idea,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because it's like my entire career path was initially it started out as like I'm the best. I got to do it. I got to figure it out. It's all on me.
Mm-hmm.
Period. Point blank. And then I got to a stage where I was like, I want to build a team,
Mm.
and I was like, well, if I want to build a team, I probably need to meet with people who are where I want to be,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And knowing myself, I can only take criticism and I can only take information from someone who is doing the thing that I want to do
Mm-hmm.
or has done the things that I want to accomplish.
Right.
And anything outside of that, it's impossible. Like
Yeah.
I can't listen to it because I'm like, you're not like there's so many levels to that process. Uh, but where it starts to come is like you got to understand that yeah, there are people ahead of you. There are people way ahead of you,
Yeah. There
and
always will be. Yeah.
there are people like you said, bigger, better, faster, stronger,
Mm-hmm.
more accomplished,
Mm-hmm.
just a different place in life,
Yeah.
and they started in a different spot, whatever it is. Um, but I want to be in that room,
Yeah. Absolutely.
right?
Definitely.
I
Yeah.
want to be not only in that room, but I want to be the less fortunate person in that room,
Right.
right?
Right.
I want to be the person that's like, wow, I didn't see it like that,
Yeah.
right? I didn't see the idea like that. There was a moment that this kind of connected, and I'm not going to say any names or nothing, but there was a moment like this that connected. I was having lunch, or no, I was
Mm-hmm.
having breakfast with a guy that I kind of like was mentoring from.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I would meet with him, whatever would, do like whatever. And we sat down at breakfast one morning, and for some reason the conversation came up about expenses and stuff like that. Kind of similar to how you and I had that one conversation
Oh
forever
yeah.
ago.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And like we were just kind of talking about this and that, and he was like, "Man," I was like, "So what was like a big change for you?" Like he was like, "Man, my monthly spend, because the team is where it is now, and like we're paying for, people to do certain things, and we've got
That
career
might be
paths."
just playing through.
Awesome.
Seems wrong.
Uh,
Do you try? Do you
Absolute worst, dude. Um, but we were sitting down, we were having a conversation, we are kind of going through a few different things,
Mm-hmm.
and ended up coming to the conversation of like money or whatever. And he said something like, "Man, my monthly spend is like $100,000 a month."
Mm.
And I was like,
Couldn't even fathom
I
that.
could like that wasn't even on my radar at the time, right?
Right, right.
Because I was complaining about like a $5,000 or $10,000 spend a month.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Man, yeah, I got spending $100,000." And I was like, I called it, I was like, "Bullshit."
Yeah.
And he was like, "Okay." He pulled out his phone, opened up his bank account,
And sure enough.
and showed me.
Yeah.
He said, "I got to keep this in my account." And I was like, "Bro, that's like $3 million."
Yeah.
I was like,
Couldn't even
I
imagine.
couldn't even,
Yeah.
bro, even to this moment, I'm still kind of like in awe of it. But that was the point. The point I'm trying to make is I want to be in that space. I want
Yeah.
to be that dude who is like, "Oh man, these are my problems." And the guys looking at me and being like, "Damn, that's not nothing."
That's yeah. Yeah.
Right? And being able to say, "Okay, I understand you're in this place. Here's a few things you may want to look at."
Mm-hmm.
Right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's genuinely what this person did for me, and allowed me to see certain things. And just by that conversation, it wasn't boastful. It wasn't,
Right.
"Look at me." It was, "I'm being serious. Here's the proof.
Right.
Here's a few things that I would recommend."
Right.
And I was like,
Right. Right.
boom, done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Consider that stuff marked off the list.
Yeah.
And I will say, I have continuously tried to put myself in those places, but lately, probably over the past, I would probably say 2 or 3 years, dude,
Yeah.
I haven't been, um, I haven't been doing that.
Mm.
I haven't been putting myself in those positions, um, just because, I've been so caught up in being isolated, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yep. Yep.
I'm not with our brokerage,
Mm-hmm.
on a regular basis, where there's some people there that genuinely are doing better than we are.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I obviously have leadership meetings and stuff like that with the brokerage, but I don't mingle or
Right.
have
Yep.
conversations anymore like
Yeah.
that.
Network with them at
Hmm.
yeah, like you've done it previously. Yeah.
And so I would just, I guess, getting to my point
Yeah.
would be, you've got to be open-minded, because I could have taken that like, "Oh man, he's way, whatever," and I could have gotten down on myself,
Right.
but I didn't, and I focused on the fact of like, this man is
Yeah.
the real
The
person
real.
that I need to be around.
Yeah. You could have
Um,
been a more of a skeptic versus like
mhm,
taking that information and then using that as more of like shifting your perspective
mhm,
versus like feeding into an insecurity.
yeah.
So yeah, that's I mean, that's exactly my thought as well with when I had what was this a couple years ago
Hmm.
when I had came to you and I was sitting there like, man, I don't know if I'm gonna make it to your wedding, man. I got this going on, my finances are upside down. And
Yeah.
then I remember I came down and visited and then we hung out that day and then similar to how your mentor did to you, you was like, bro, let me show you like, I told you, oh
Yeah.
man, I was like, I think I'm on like 6,000 in the hole, something like that.
Uh-huh.
And you're just like, he's like, bro, let me show you what's really going on. Let me show you like what's, my expenses for,
Yeah.
for the Corbin team. And at the time when you showed me, I looked at, I was just like, oh, so the world's not falling apart. But that type of exposure, but like similar to how you were saying how your mentor showed you that to show you like, hey, this is where I'm at, but here's what I would do differently.
Hmm.
You know, you did that similar to you took that similar approach with me
I
as
guess I
well.
did.
Yeah, you were just like, bro, this is what I have to worry about all the time. I gotta make sure I'm
Yeah.
above water here, above water here, above water here. Because I remember that's what you did after you showed me. You were just breaking it down like, hey, this is what I have to do so I can stay above water.
Yeah.
And so in that instance, right? That was more of a perspective shift
Hmm.
because it was like, you know, yeah, yeah, don't make light of your situation, but
Yeah.
also don't make your situation like a chicken little, the sky is falling
Hmm.
situation as well, because you think, you think you're in, you have that type of debt, right? But
Hmm.
there's people that have millions of dollars in debt or people that have businesses and it's a like you said it's there's always somebody that's in a deeper water than you, but also there's somebody that's doing better than you and also can help you in that area. And so I like why you gave that example because it's all about when your mentor talked to you and then when you talk to me, it's all about not letting that information, because it's information.
Hmm.
It's not, it doesn't, even if it's delivered in an arrogant way or
Yeah.
in a uh humble way, it's still information. There's not any like emotion with that information.
Yeah.
And so because the information is just information, it's up to you to figure out how you're going to intake that information,
Hmm.
because I could have took what you told me and be like and said, man, Addison's really, he's really he has a Corbin team and he's doing well. And, yeah, he has, bills and all that, but man, he got his own thing going on, man. That's, you know, man, why am I not doing that? I could have really went down a rabbit hole of like insecurity
Hmm.
versus more of when you showed me that, it was like, wow, he has he has debt right now, but there's a plan with it. He has a plan on how he's going to get himself out of it, and he has more. It was at time more than what I had, and I was just like, if he's so calm, cool, and collective about, even though I know probably you're sitting here listening to me like, dude, I was
I
not
was
calm, cool, and
stressing.
collective, but if he can have a plan
Yeah.
to what he needs to do to get himself out of this hole, all that did for me was like, okay, I need to start to develop a plan on how I can get myself out of this hole I put myself into.
Hmm.
And so that's what it's all about. I think we both are very similar in how we always are going to strive to be the big fish.
Yeah.
Um, and when we were younger, that was primarily what drove us,
Yeah.
right? Even with things like going to the gym, when I was younger, it was about being the strongest,
Yeah.
being able to, I need to be stronger than the next person so I can, be excel at this area. I need to have a better bench press than this person. I need to have a
Yeah.
better squat than this person. And then as I get older, it's like that still drives me, but also I can sit there and understand like, you know what? This person is stronger than me. He is faster than me. He is more accomplished. And I can respect that.
Hmm.
And now that I'm more mature, I can take that and just use that as inspiration to get me going
Hmm.
to his level. You right? And he's probably doing the same thing too, because there's always levels to, there's always levels to everything that we do.
Right.
And so I think that's the biggest thing, man, is just when you see someone that's more accomplished than you, well, first things first, there's always a bigger fish out there.
100%.
There's always a bigger fish. That's just how the world works. It is what it is. There's always a bigger fish. But don't let that feed into your insecurity. Let that feed into your perspective.
Hmm.
And use that to not only shift your perspective, but also to just continue to just feed that hunger that you have.
Yeah.
And so to kind of wrap this up, man. So how does what we talked about right now apply to the mind, body, spirit for you?
there's hmm, it's actually kind of simple.
Mm-hmm.
I think the understanding of perspective,
Mm-hmm.
understanding what information that how you intake information
Mm-hmm.
is probably how you intake a lot of the things that are happening in your life,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah, absolutely.
if you take it in a sort of fashion that, woe is me
Mm-hmm.
type of mentality versus, I can use this information and be able to apply it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then understanding like you want to be around those bigger fish. You want to be around those people who are doing more if that's something that you want,
Yeah.
right? And then also being able to understand the expectation that comes along with that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
If you're not willing to put in the work, then you need to lower the expectation
Mm.
because the idea of like where we feel like we fail
Mm-hmm.
is because we have an expectation of how we should be based off of a goal, but do we even want that goal? And if
Mm-hmm.
we don't want that goal, we need to lower the expectation,
Yeah.
which will adjust how we view that
Oh yeah.
entire process, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Or you raise both, right? There's the whole concept behind it, but like
Mm-hmm.
my biggest thing is the more that you're around people who are doing more than you,
Yep.
you're more likely going to start doing more, and
Mm-hmm.
your red line, like where you max out, will change.
Yeah.
It'll grow
Yeah.
and you start seeing different levels to how people that are successful, how they operate,
Yeah.
how they handle situations, how they handle negative situations, how they handle the things that happen in life. And then you get to have that perspective now,
Yeah.
right? And so that opens up your mind, your body, and your spirit completely as a whole
Yeah.
because you are now looking at things through an abundance mindset.
Yeah. I like that, man. That's
And
dope.
and that's something that you can apply to all
All
three.
three.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. No, I like that, man. That was dope, man. I'll say for me, man, I'm gonna start with like a universal,
Hmm.
how it can apply to all three, and then I'll break it down mind, body, and spirit. But I think the biggest thing that you'll have to do is one, you gotta be aware of your like shortcomings and
Hmm.
insecurities. I think that's the biggest thing. I think a lot of times that sometimes your insecurities can creep up on you
Hmm.
if you're not aware of like, okay, this is what I'm not necessarily good at. This is what I struggle with. This is where I can get better at. And that's the biggest thing, man, because sometimes if you don't like we've always talked about in previous episodes, we've always talked about having that just having that internal time to just discover yourself and talk to yourself about like, okay, here's what I'm good at. Here's what I need to get better at. But don't get that part of you like that needs to get better. Don't take that as like a weakness. Take
Hmm.
that as like, okay, yeah, I'm weak in it now, right? But take that as something that you can use to leverage it to continue to just strive for that greatness. And that you can apply that to your mind, body, and spirit. But I'll say, and to kind of break this down, I think for the mind, like we talked about in our examples that we gave, it's all about perspective,
Hmm.
shifting your perspective, right? I think when how people say like it's good to travel the world because it shifts your perspective and it broadens the horizon of like how you think about things.
Hmm.
I mean, it's similar to, what you do for business, right? Like the more you and I think that's why people are so like heavy on like networking because yeah, there is there a game that needs to be played for sure. But also, I think for your own self development, you have to expose yourself in those rooms where you are the tadpole in the pond, right? You are
Hmm.
the tadpole in the ocean,
Yeah.
right? Of like sharks and other predators.
Yeah.
You need to expose yourself to that to understand like, okay, this is what happens in these types of rooms. And then also, you know, because not even though they are accomplished and they are um the bigger fish, they might not necessarily be the right person for you to look up to as well.
Yeah.
I think in your mind you have to understand that as well because again, we're in this society now where you go on social media, you see people with the nice cars, the nice houses, the women around them, they got a whole social circle, but you have to just take that for face value. You can't really sit there and say, okay, this is a person I want to learn from,
Hmm.
but it's like, yeah, this person has all this stuff, but he might not even take care of his family.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
again, it's all about perspective and like realizing within yourself what is truly important to me. I think if you can answer that and you're willing to be
Yeah.
open-minded and just exposing yourself more, I think you'll be solid.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing is you got to figure out who you are first before you expose yourself because if you don't know who you are and you expose yourself to different rooms, you can potentially be influenced by some good things, but also some bad things.
Hmm.
So I think from a mind perspective, understand what you want to do, understand and think about what you want to do. And make sure you know who you are before you expose yourself to these rooms.
Yeah.
So you're not easily influenced.
Amen.
I think that from the body perspective, you have to shift I'll just relate it to like just going to the gym, right? You should train for more of self-discipline and longevity versus training for aesthetics
Hmm.
and for accomplishments. And for example, I always talk to you about, for jujitsu.
Yeah.
When I first started doing it, I remember telling you like, oh yeah, in 10 years I want to be a black belt, da da da. But then funny enough, man, I remember saying that and then also just just I was just kind of just looking at, I'll randomly look at different like, people rolling and
Hmm.
or people in competitions and stuff and then, just people's thoughts on like jujitsu, on its own, right? And so I remember I came across this one guy. He showed a clip of, I think he was, might have been like a blue belt, but he was like a competition blue belt. And like competition blue
Hmm.
belts are different from hobbyist blue belts. But they were showing a competition blue belt beating a black belt, right? And so overall the guy was saying how like belts are more of a status of like showing that you've come to class and you're being consistent and coming to class and um that's more of I'll say more of like a
Hmm.
hobbyist black belt, right?
Yep.
Like that's what that black belt shows. Like, hey, this guy comes to class, he comes, he rolls, he learns. This is just here's your reward for showing up,
Yep.
essentially, right? But also if you do that and you're not like consistently testing yourself, I'm not saying you gotta like go to competition all the time because you know we have lives and we have other
Yeah.
things that comes up in our life that we have to attend to. And also, there's a certain level of commitment you have to have for competition as well. So it's like you have to understand, you know, if you have going up against a guy that's a competition blue belt, this guy might be training like 3 times a day. He could be training 5 times a week you know, and there's just a certain level of commitment he has to it because he is competing.
Yeah.
But beside the point, it's all about for me, it was all about okay, I just want to get better. I just want to overall improve. And I have to realize, okay, what are the things I can do to just become at least 1% better every time I go to a
Yeah.
class? And if, maybe doing a competition here and there, if that's going to help me be better, at my jujitsu game versus just worry about like getting promoted to the next belt,
Yeah.
I'm more willing to I'm more willing to stay at a belt for years. But as long as I'm getting better
Hmm.
and I can see myself getting better and I can see that you want to have a respectable jujitsu game,
Yeah.
right? Like you not in like an egotistical way, but you just for like there's a standard that you want where
Yeah.
you do want people to be like, oh, you know what? I roll with Alex. He's still got a little bit to learn, but he's solid.
Yeah.
He has a solid foundation.
Yeah.
There is that part of you that wants that.
Yeah.
But I don't think but it's not like completely like validation, like outside validation that they're
Right.
seeking.
Yeah,
But
it's just it's the understanding that your game is growing.
right,
Yeah.
right. So I think for from a body perspective, that's what we have to continue to shoot for. It's like you want to just like instead of going to the gym and being like, I want to be the strongest person in the gym.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you want to be stronger than what you were before.
Yeah.
Even if it's like, okay, last week I was only able to get this weight 3 times. Now 2 weeks from now, I'm able to get it 5 times.
Yeah.
So it's like you just want to make sure you're improving for yourself versus for outside recognition.
Yeah.
So I think that's what for me what that applies to the body and then for the spirit. I think spiritually wise, I feel like the more spiritually mature you are, the more your mind is going to shift from a I need to be doing this or from an insecurity mindset. The more spiritually mature you are, it's going to help you shift from more of an insecurity mindset to a perspective mindset. And then the more spiritually mature you are, it's going to automatically shift like how you look at the mind and the body as well. Because I feel like the more you know yourself, the more you're more intertwined with like what you want to do versus I need to do this so I can be the next this or I need to do this so I can keep up with the Joneses. I think the more in alignment you are with yourself, the better off it's going to be for you as far as like, okay, I can respect this person is a all-time great or a GOAT at what he does. I can respect that. But I'm also going to use that to fuel me to be because I want to be there too.
Yeah.
But also I don't want if getting to that point is going to compromise my morals, my integrity, who I am as a person that I really worked hard to try to establish, if it's going to compromise that, then I don't want that.
Yeah. What's the point?
What's the point? I know there's a cost to everything that we do,
Yeah.
especially as you continue to climb. But I think the one of the things that we really have to look within ourselves is if it's going to compromise my morals and integrity, is this something I need to really be pursuing?
Yeah.
I think that's what tends to happen to a lot of us sometimes, where it's like we have this goal that we really want, and you see it all the time. People shortcut to the top because of like
Mm-hmm.
that burning desire that they have that they
Mm-hmm.
want to do. So that's I think that's what it is for my spiritual. It's just like, yeah, yeah, strive to be great. That's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
You want to be the best version of you, but don't compromise your integrity and morals going to the mountaintop.
Amen.
So, but that concludes our podcast, The Three Pillars of Man. Appreciate everybody tuning in today. Like, share, subscribe with all your friends and family. Again, we're just two brothers just having authentic conversations and continuing to be great.
Continue to grow.
That's it. Amen.